into one's home. It's not about killing people, ISIS style, setting people on fire or whatever it is. He's making a point, alayhi salatu wasalam, that in comparison to the masajid, the homes have no value. And also the impetus of fire. Like when there's a fire, what happens? People panic. Yeah, people just want to get out of there, leave. That's the other thing. They should be leaving their homes like it's a panic. All right. So we'll continue, inshallah azza wa jal. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, hamdan yuwafi ni'amahu wa yukafi'u mazida, wassalatu wassalam ala khayr al-anam wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. إننا نوينا نتعلم التعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والدعاء إلى الهدى والضلالة على الخير والحث والتمسك بكتاب الله والسنة رسول الله ابتغاء مرضات الله وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. Praise Allah Azza wa Jal. Our praise is worthy of a beneficent bestower of bounties and favours. We ask our Lord Most High to send copious, unlimited, eternal blessings and salutations upon our beloved Prophet Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. So he says, قال المؤلف رحمه الله رضي الله عنه وعنكم نفعنا به وبكم وإذا كان هذا التشديد كله في ترك الجماعة فما ظنك به في ترك الجمعة التي هي فرض عين. So if you think along the lines of, so if you think that all this, no, it's on the other page. Yes, we couldn't find it because that's not what it says in English. So English he just starts, he says just for the Friday prayers. So anyway, it's up to you. It's that actual paragraph as for the Friday prayers. So again, that's why we read from the Arabic, because sometimes for whatever reason the translators they leave things out of books, and in this case he has. So in your copy on what page is it?
65.
On page 65. He's just started off and says, as for the Friday prayers. But in Arabic, that's not what Imam al-Haddad says. He says, all this tashdid, in Arabic, it's tashdid, it's almost extremities. It's almost being extreme. And when we think about the hadith, the Prophet of Allah, he said he wants to burn the house of the people that don't come. Pretty extreme a statement. So the Imam saying, if you think all that extremity, all that being harsh in a sense almost, tashdid also, is just with regards to leaving a congregational prayer, then what do you think about فَمَا ظَنُّكَ? And what's your comprehension of or your understanding of leaving the Jum'ah prayer? التي هي فرض عين, that prayer is an individual obligation upon, and he'll give upon every single male, free, sane, mature Muslim that is not a traveller. Alright? So they're the people that it's fardu ayn on. Fardu ayn means it's an individual obligation. Everyone, male, mature, aqil, is of age, not mentally irregular, not have some sort of a psychological melee. Hadir, they're in their village or in their town, they're not travelling somewhere else. Then it's an obligation for that person to attend the masjid. Okay? And he says, وَقَدْ قَالَ رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم مَنْ تَرَكَ ثَلَاثَ جُمُعٍ تَهَاوُنًا طَبَعَ اللَّهُ عَلَى قَلْبِهِ. So just read as for the Friday prayers.
As for the Friday prayers, the Messenger of God, may blessing and peace be upon him, the heart of the man who neglects 3 Friday prayers because he holds them in light estimation will be sealed by God.
Ya Allah. So that's a very good actually translation of the hadith. Don't mind read it again, just the hadith.
The heart of the man who neglects 3 Friday prayers, he holds them in light estimation will be sealed by God.
Right, so that's why it says in that regard it is only for the men, because the obligation to attend the masjid for Jummah prayers Only is for men. There's no obligation for women. Okay? So the person, tahawunan, the Prophet of Allah says, that doesn't place a value on it. It's just Jummah. It's just a prayer. I've got something else to do. I couldn't be bothered. Whatever, I'm working, whatever. So that's the kind of the nexus, I suppose, between the person who is struggling. Last week, actually, after we came back from Jummah, we saw a guy in the car park next to where we were praying, and he's asking, is this the Qibla? Is the Qibla this way? So he was making his effort to get there. Whatever happened, traffic, car broke down, someone, whoever, you don't know what the guy's excuse was, but that's different to someone, mutahawin or tahawunan, yani, they, as he says there, he takes it light estimation. It's not a big deal. So what, I'm just Jummah, I'll just pray Dhuhr. Okay, so someone who has, a male who has that ittijah, that sort of focus when it comes to the Friday prayers, and they miss 3 in a row, طبع الله على قلبي. I mean, I don't know, you should get a few of your buddies together and someone does a quick 2-minute khutbah. And
we do that, but we don't do the khutbah.
What do you just do?
Just pray.
We have a khutbah.
It's not hard to do the khutbah, just Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Nas, any one of those. And then sit down, wait a couple of seconds, stand up again, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, Allahumma hadina. Aqimus salat. That's simple. That's enough for a khutbah. So try and work on it, inshallah. Try and work on it. You know, like I know it's hard. We've got work, we've got school. It's always hard for us because it's not an Islamic country. But that's why for us, ikhtilaf al-ulama is rahmah. The difference of opinions of the scholars is a blessing, right? So we just said that there. But that's the rulings I just gave for the khutbah. That's the Shafi'i rulings. The Shafi'i have to have 40 people. But what does Abu Hanifa say? 3 people. The Imam and 3 people. So we take crossover, Shanafi, we go half of this and half of that. That's a rahmah for us because our circumstances are difficult. You know, we don't have masjid. To buy a house costs $1 million, even in Auburn and Greenacre and these areas these days. A masjid, you're looking at $4 or $5 million. So the difficulties that we're facing, Allah Azza wa Jal knew these things were going to occur. That's why Allah Azza wa Jal revealed the Qur'an the way He did, and He taught the Prophet of Allah what He taught him and showed us. And the Warathat al-Anbiya, the ulama, the inheritors of prophethood, they come up with these rulings. So, I know sometimes like it's a bit, awkward. We don't want to. We're not, we feel in a situation where we feel our deen is private and it's to ourselves, and we feel like we don't feel like we're in the right situation to do something. But again, that's where iman comes in. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Iman comes from the root word aman, which has a connotation of what? Aman, safety, and security, and confidence. Confidence. If you're safe and secure, do you feel confident? Yeah, of course. No one's going to shake you. So you have to have that confidence as well in your iman, in your deen. And it's harder now because everyone's the media's beating all the stories up, like the poor kid in the United States. You bring a clock to school and they reckon it's a bomb or whatever, and whatever. Anyway, he's going to see the president now. Well, it's the shame. That's not the shame of the country. And they realise they did something wrong, which is good. I don't think our leaders have done anything like that. He realised it was a shameful thing. He realised it was wrong, so he invited the kid to come. And then other agencies, government agencies, so we better look after this bloke, irrespective of the circumstances. At least they fixed up. The president fixed up the mistake. And we always say America this and America that and America this and America. All right, maybe the policies are one thing, but the people are showing something different. Okay, so it's harder now, and it's going to get harder. But if it keeps getting harder and we don't get stronger in our iman, what for? What's La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah going to do for me? I want to be locked up in my house. I'm going to be one person when I'm alone, another person when I'm with the Muslims, and a third person when I'm with the non-Muslims. I have to be how I am with Allah. And the only way that's going to happen is through iman. Through iman. No, nothing else. Ilm, all that, all nothing, dhikr, whatever, it's iman. And that the iman is the result of ilm, it's the result of knowledge, it's the result of remembrance of Allah, it's the result of prayer, it's the result. And guess what? When you do it, if you're sincere to Allah, Allah will show you something. One of the brothers told us they went to, back in the 90s, they were in Bosnia, Herzegovina, and it was a group of them, and the Serbian army was going on the train station. The Serbian army was coming, they saw them, all Muslims, they're dressed like Muslims. That's it, they're going to die, they're going to kill them. So one of the brothers gets up, Allahu Akbar, he starts making the adhan, he makes the iqamah, and they pray, and they freaked out, the Serbians. He was telling me the story. And they prayed, and as soon as the train came and jumped on the train, they were dead men. They were gone. But what saved them is their iman. And when you do something like that in a difficult situation, don't put yourself in a dangerous situation. But if you take care of your affairs and you are put into a dangerous situation, or the situation becomes dangerous, then your iman is all you've got. Your iman billah. In other words, Allah. Your connection to Allah means Allah is all you have. Allah is always there, but whether we recognize that and whether we have a connection with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala always goes back to our iman. So when that situation arises, stick to what you know. Stick to what you more correctly believe. Stick to your convictions in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you're sincere in that, Allah will show you something. Do you think these guys who are on the station, the army's coming to get them, is the iman gone up or gone down after that situation? It's skyrocketed. So that means if they're in a similar situation, again, they won't hesitate. There'll be no hesitation. They know what they have to do, and they'll go ahead and do it. And it's the same for any one of us. If we don't practice and use our iman, it won't increase. It won't get stronger. It won't become firmer. Our convictions won't become steadfast and solidified. It's only in the use of our iman. They say it's like a hole. The more you take out of it, the bigger it gets. Our iman, the more you use it, the stronger it gets, like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And that's why, for us, we have to be prepared. We have to be prepared for the times that are ahead. And the only way is to prepare our iman. Is to strengthen our connection with Allah Azza wa Jal and keep our iman firm and solid. So the person, the male that 3 times they just take it easy to how on it, the iman's weak, Allah seals that person's heart. Not in a good way. Seals, in other words, there's a block between that person and Allah. Allah doesn't want to know that person anymore, that man. فإذا وقع لك عذر في ترك الجمعة أو الجماعة فقدر أن في الموضع الذي تقام فيه رجلا يفرق دنانير على الحاضرين فإن نشطت للحضور ورغبت فيه فعذرك غير صحيح واستحي من الله أن يكون غرض الدنيا أعز عليك مما عنده.
When you feel that you have an excuse not to attend the Friday or any other collective prayer, imagine that in the place where the prayer is held, a man will distribute money to all those present. If you then find the energy and desire to go, then your excuse is unsound. Feel shame before God that worldly affairs are dearer to you than what He exactly is. He has in store for you.
So now the Imam is giving us a litmus test. He's giving us a technique to ensure, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, and to enable us to overcome our lower selves, to overcome our ego and our nafus and our nafs, and to enable us to reach the benchmark of the Prophet of Allah ﷺ in following this technique. So what does he say? He says that if you believe that you've got a valid excuse, or an excuse, he says, he doesn't use the word valid. You believe that you've got an excuse to leave the Jum'ah or the Jama'ah. He says, فَقَدِّرْ. Qaddir means estimate. Look in your heart. Put together a theory or an imaginary situation. He says that in the place where you pray, there's a man who's giving out dinanir. Dinar is a gold piece. Dirham is a silver piece. So he's giving out gold. Okay? To all those who attend. So if in your mind, and this is for the males in particular, if in your mind you think, oh, yeah, if the guy was giving out gold coins, I'd probably go. My leg's sore, I'm tired, whatever, I'm hungry, it's a bit of a long walk, it's raining, whatever. Those excuses that we give to ourselves. So if it creates a little bit extra urge, just the thought of someone giving out money in the masjid. So to think about it, if someone's giving the money in the masjid, would I go? The maybe means the excuse isn't good enough. The maybe I would go. Possibly. Not that definitely there's no question about it. But it's one being truthful to oneself. So if one was to be truthful to oneself in looking for an excuse not to attend a congregational prayer, Jummah, different story altogether really. But if one was to give themselves or give himself, and that's in this sense specifically an excuse, and then one was to think if someone was giving out money in the masjid, and we're not talking $1, a gold coin, you know, if it's 80 shusmu, if it's 20 dinars for the nisab, which is a lower amount of zakat. A lower amount of zakat is about $3,000. So 3,000 divided by 20, how much is that? Sorry. Masalan, it's what, like $100 as an example. So $150, jazakallahu khairan. So if it's $150, $150 is alright, isn't it? It's not chump change. It's good money really. To what? To go to the masjid for 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it takes. So that's what he's saying. He's saying that, and in our lives, we need to have these techniques in all of our affairs of deen. In all of our affairs of deen. So when I wake up, for like the Prophet of Allah said, he doesn't wake up when by the time the Fajr Adhan is called, the shaitan will come and urinate on that person. So I want to go to Fajr, but do I want to wake up before Fajr, after Fajr, after the Adhan, the time comes in? What's the deal? At the time. So really, so that doesn't happen to me. I've got to think, alright, it's an extra 10 minutes of being awake, but what can I do in those 10 minutes? What benefit is there in that 10 minutes? If someone was to pay me, if someone was to give me 1,000 likes, 1,000 likes, 1,000 likes on my Facebook page, is it a good deal? Or 1,000 shares or whatever. Okay? So whatever it is that is valuable to me. Or a new iPhone 6, is it? 6C? S? 6S. The first one. Imagine the first one. Would I go? If someone said to you, the first iPhone 6S is at the masjid, or waking up for Fajr, or dressing up the right way, or addressing our elders the right way. Yeah? And our parents in particular. So when my mum or dad tells me to do something, and I respond, before I respond I think, oh wait, if I respond this way, what's going to happen? If my dad was to give me the iPhone 6 and say, go get this, and the iPhone 6 was in hand, 6S, and he said, can you go get this? And we what? We go, we fly. We wouldn't say, just a sec, Dad, I want to finish this show. Or next ad, after, later, I'm busy, I'm doing, I'm coming. Or the mum goes, help out with this, iPhone 6 is there. Oh, fly. Our feet won't even touch the ground. It'll be like a karama, like a miracle. Alright, so that's the type of way we've got to think about things in life to work out where our priorities lie. And to work out whether indeed, and that's what the Imam's saying here, he says, be ashamed of yourself. Be ashamed of yourself. If that is a situation when they occur, and we all thought about it now of all the examples we mentioned, so if it created a little bit of urge in us, or a little change in the way we thought, then we have to be ashamed of ourselves from Allah Azza wa Jal. We have to be ashamed of the relationship we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the affairs, or the gharab, the goods of the world are a'az. Anymore, al-izz is, in a sense, it has a connotation of honor, but more prestigious in this meaning. So the goods or the worldly affairs, money, power, status, is more prestigious to us than that which is with Allah Azza wa Jalla. That's a problematic That's what our Iman is for. Our Iman is there so we can differentiate between truth and falsehood, between reality and illusion. And the world we live in, the majority of what we see around us is illusory. It's not real. It's not real. Kim Kardashian, her body doesn't look like that. Sorry to say. Her face doesn't look like that. Her voice, I don't know if she sings or not, but all the people that sing, most of them, that's not what their real voices are like. Even their skin colour. Beyonce, a friend of mine, he saw her, met her, and she's like this short, and she's not attractive at all. She's very, very dark. No? Isn't that the illusion? We live in a world, people who work in media and things, they create that illusion. Because there's what? What's behind the illusion, but? What's behind the illusion? Gharad al-dunya. The thing that Imam al-Haddad's talking about. The goods of this world. The attachments of the material and the dunyawi, the life of consumption and attachment to this world. So that's why it's illusory. Why? It's going to finish. Who wants to attach themselves to something, even if the world's been around for 6 billion years, and it's going to be around for another 6 billion more. But is it going to end? It's going to end. So there's the falsehood compared to the reality, eternal, everlasting without an end, or however you want to describe it. Which one? Well, my Iman is the differentiating factor, not my mind, because my mind can be fooled and we only live here a little while and what's the proof? But our Iman will tell us, no doubt. No doubt that الذي عند الله, that which is with Allah Azza wa Jal, is far better. وأبقى خير وأبقى. Not only is it better, but it's going to last forever. So the question would be like this: if we were to look at it in a worldly sense, would you rather have an iPhone 5, right, that lasts forever, as an example, or an iPhone 6C that lasts for a month? That's too hard. A day, an hour, because there's too much choice in that option lasting for a month. It's going to last for an hour.
So I'll upgrade it in that month.
You know what I mean? No, I'll show it to my friends and don't worry about it. You know? Doesn't know what it's about having the phone. That I got the phone. Fellas, I got it. But what's the difference between all the other iPhones? It's a bit bigger. Other than that, it's the same. Anyway, in my view, not being a tech head. Alright, so what's the comparison? But actually, it's not like that. Actually, the life of this world is like a Nokia 5110. He doesn't even know what that is, eh? Alright, or an analog mobile phone, or the bricks. We used to see the businessmen. They used to carry a suitcase like that, and inside it was a mobile phone. That was the mobile phone back then. It's like and a massive antenna.
Well, what's a Nokia?
Nokia. Alright? It's like comparing, the life of this world is like comparing that briefcase to the iPhone 6. The briefcase is only going to last for an hour, compared to the iPhone 6C, or S, or whatever it is, that's going to last for eternal. There's no choice. That's no choice. That's not even, that's it. There's only one option. And that's how our Iman should be pushing us. Our Iman has to be. If it's not doing that, it means it's not working properly. It's malfunctioning. And it needs to be rectified. And that only happens, al-Iman yazidu wa yanqus. It increases, alayhi said, and it decreases. It increases with good deeds and it decreases with what? Sins and what else? And no deeds. If you keep doing good deeds, it goes up. If you stop doing good deeds, it goes down. It doesn't stay. It doesn't stagnate. It doesn't stop. Okay, it's a forget the word for it, but it's constantly moving. It's constantly changing. It's in flux all the time.
State of flux.
It's not stagnant. It never stagnates. Either it's going up or it's going down. It never just hangs out. It doesn't do that. That's not Iman. Because it's our differentiating factor. It's a factor that determines who we are and what we're about and what we believe. So that's the choice. It says وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْعُذْرَ الصَّادِقُ غَايَتُهُ إِسْقَاطُ الْحَرَجِ.
Know that an honest excuse will only prevent you from being called to account, while the reward can be only obtained by actual performing the deed.
Okay, وَأَمَّا الثَّوَابُ فَلَا يَحْصُلُ إِلَّا بِالْفِعْلِ. Okay, so basically that's what we're just saying. Yes or no? Okay, that the excuse. Say again, please, in English.
Know that an excuse will only prevent you from being called to account, while the reward can only be obtained by actually performing the deed.
Okay, so he's talking about al-udhr al-sadiq, the acceptable or valid excuse. The valid excuse, all it will do is take away the haraj is the kind of the necessity to attend the congregation. So that's all it's going to take away. But it's not going to actually, if a person, basically what he's saying is, if a person has a valid excuse for not attending the congregation, just by mere fact of having a valid excuse, it doesn't mean they actually get anything out of it. All they do is avoid the detriment. Okay, so if we're looking on the scale of Iman, that should always be in our minds. So if we have a valid excuse not to go to the masjid, our Iman doesn't go up. Right? And it'll probably go down depending on what the excuse is, depending on the circumstance. But what happens is that the Iman can only go up through the performance of going to the masjid. Yeah? Make sense? Yep. Alright. He says, Na'am. He's confirming it. Na'am. قد يحصل الثواب لمن تعذر عليه الحضور من كل وجه.
However, the reward can be awarded to some who find it totally impossible to attend. For instance, someone who continuous diarrhea, or who is forcibly prevented from going.
Okay, so he says that indeed, a person could possibly get the rewards of going to the masjid, the congregational prayer. Okay, and this it's not just limited to the congregational prayer. Okay, it could be anything, going to a class, it could be helping out mum and dad, it could be helping out younger brother or sister, any good deed that can be done, or any request from a group, a person to help out, to assist, to contribute in some way. Okay, no valid excuse, no good. But a person can have a valid excuse and they could get the benefit. This is what he said. He says that كالذي يكون عذره كالإسهال المتواتر أو الحبس عدوا ونحو ذلك. So he says that the person who has constant diarrhea, they're sick, in other words. That could be anything. That could be bawasir, salisil bawl. Bawasir is hemorrhoids, and salisil bawl is incontinence. They're always the common things that ulama talk about. So a person could be incontinent, or they could have hemorrhoids and constantly bleeding. That's an excuse. That's a valid excuse. Anything that is going to break a person's wudu, those types of things, anything that's going to cause filth to come out of the body, any of those types of things, they're a reasonable excuse in that circumstance not to attend. He says, أو لا يتعذر عليه الحضور ولكن يلحق بسببه لمسلم غيره مشقة شديدة.
It can also be given to some who, although not finding it altogether impossible to go, would by attending cause undue hardship to another Muslim.
Okay, so basically that one's about someone's sick, right? Mum, dad, brother, someone's very, very sick and they need you around. Could be so sick that if they don't have someone around, they'll die or they'll get worse. Or some of the ulama even talk about just for comfort. So if they need you to get, they're not, some people they're like that. They get sick, they need 5 people around, they need to moan and carry on. And that's how they are. That's how they get better. So if someone's like that and they need you around, then that's a valid excuse. Okay, that's a valid excuse. So for example, there's a child that can't look after him or herself. And this is for a man, mother's not around, there's no one else around, you're there. That's another one of those valid excuses. So there's 2 types of excuses basically. One, that the individual who should be going to congregational prayer or doing that beneficial deed in other circumstances, they can't attend for their own personal reasons. Or the person that should be going to the congregational prayer can't attend because they have the responsibility of another person who's in their need. Okay? That's basically the 2 categories that fall under that. Those people that are that have a valid excuse.
Doesn't it go down to like maqasid al-sharia? Because it says like the public harm has to outweigh the public harm has to outweigh the responsibility. So you have some brothers now that they'll get fired, but they'll go to Jum'ah, and then they're out of a job and they can't give income to their family. But Jum'ah was front and center. So it's sort of like common sense applies, right? If you've got a responsibility and you can't, at what expense?
The thing is, when it's something that's fard ayn like that, because it's a fard ayn, look, if the guy has got no other source of income, okay, do it, but he needs to be looking for actively seeking another job during that time period. And then the Imam talks about how the state of that person's heart should be that has the valid excuse. Like the thing is, having a job and earning money, lawful income for your family, and not having too much, but enough to the sitra is it's jihad. The Prophet said, he kissed the hands of the man they were all rough when he was working. He wasn't asking people. And don't think settling is not asking people. Unless you're sick and you can't work, or you're old, or you fit into the categories. That's whole settling business. They're professional beggars, these people. There's no other word. There's no sugarcoating the story. And most of the time they're liars. And most of the time, and whoever's a liar is shahadat zur. It's for giving false testimony, and it's from the kaba'ir. How are you going to get money and do a major sin? It's that, man. But we've just to say it's all right. It's the government. Who's the government? You're the government. Whoever works, they're the government. Who do you think the government is? What's his face pays out of his pocket? No one pays out of their pocket. It's out of my pocket, and your pocket, and your pocket, and your pocket, and the people who work. They're ripping us off. They're ripping off the country. Anyway, different story, but that's the type of thing that has to be avoided if one can. But the things that now, if you left work to go to Jama'ah, Duhur or Asr, that's a problem. That's a problem. But also, you have to be able to pray those prayers. So he has to make arrangements with his boss to be able to pray that prayer. And if or her, that's the case. So it should be enough time to go and make the fard wudu. That's only washing the face, and the intention, the face, arms, wiping the head and the feet. Fard wudu. And to pray the fard. No need to read Baqarah or Ali Imran. To read the fard prayer and the taslim and back to work. Because you're on the money, you're on someone else's time. That's their haqq. So that doesn't if someone is, oh yeah, go, that happened every time the employers would complain. I'll go to the Muslim saying, I gave the brother time to go pray, it takes half an hour. He's got to pray all the sunan, he's got to pray all the nawafil. You can't do that. You can't, unless the boss allows you to, that's a different story. So the work that you find, it's like, for example, working in a pub. All right, so you're not drinking, but it's haram. You can't do it. So it's the same sort of thing. That's the opposite way of looking at it. If you got to find work that allows you to maintain whatever asset. If you're a sister, you've got to take off your hijab. You can't do that job. Or it's a khalwa. It's you and a man, or a man as a man. You're in a room with a woman. And there's no one else around. It's locked or whatever. Haram. You can't do that. If you're stuck, you can do that for a little amount of time while you're looking for actively seeking to find a new job. So that's one of the things that the Prophet said, "Qabid ala jamra." At the end of time, it'll be like the person holding onto a hot coal because of all these reasons, because of all these different things that are going on in the oppression. All right. Like we missed that one, habs al-adu. So there been someone's, like this is old. Don't forget. So so basically, if you're in jail, detained, and look, these things are going to increase. Don't be in dream world. Like don't think that it's all la-di-da-di. It's not all la-di-da-di. If we don't get our act together and we don't understand how our deen is, like I said, the media is doing their job and things are getting harder for Muslims. When did Australians ever talk about taking away someone's citizenship? No, like what? They're Aussies. That's it. Now everyone's with it. Now right-wing extremism, just like any other type of extremism, is pervasive in our society. Whatever. The regular Aussie doesn't think that. Oh yeah, how come the Prophet said, "Kama takunu tawalla alaykum"? According to how you are, is how your leaders are going to be. Don't fool yourself. Maybe they don't say it to my face. Maybe they don't say it to your face. But that's the reality of what's going on. People are scared. And the media and clowns the Muslims. So don't be disillusioned. Doesn't mean we should hate anyone. It means we need to understand the situation in which we live. We need to comprehend it so that so our deen can be saved. So our lives can be saved. So we can practice our deen in the right manner. Don't be in dream world. Look up Australia's history. Australia is an imperialistic country, no matter how much I love Australia. It's an imperialistic country. They wanted to annex Papua New Guinea and Fiji and bring slave labour to work in the cane fields. That's Australia. Bougainville mine, look it up. It's recent history. It's recent. Arian Jaya, or the other side of Papua New Guinea. Australia wants it. They want to annex it to Australia. Imperialistic. Makhalu Nasaf al-Aboriginal is Nasaf. That's the reality. That's the reality. In World War II, what did they do with the Germans and the Japanese? Anyone know? Italians. No one knows, eh? How are you going to live in a country you don't know? They locked them up in Cowra, in Western New South Wales, in concentration camps. You know that? You didn't know that, eh? That's the reality of the country. Don't be in disillusionment. Don't be in disillusionment. White Australia policy only finished the other day, a few years ago. Aborigines only were recognised as human beings, a few years ago, 40, 50. It's not long. So don't live in a dream world.
They're still suffering as well.
Don't live in a dream world. Don't think it's all good. I'm eating 5 meals a day, and I wear the clothes that I want to wear, and I drive the car that I want to drive. I've got the phone that I want to drive. It's all good. The time's going to come, and if our iman isn't strong enough for us to handle it, don't worry about hijab. Don't worry about beard. Don't worry about salat. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about the whole deen. And what for? That's the test of somebody's conviction in the tough times, not in the times of ease. In the times that are tough. And he asked Sayyidina Bilal, what he says, Ibn Rabah, Allah marda anhu, when he was getting bashed, when he was getting whipped during the day in the hot sun in Mecca. And then at night they used to put him on the fire, and the fat from his back would put out the coals of the fire. It was coals, not raging fire. Then later on, he came into the majlis of the Prophet of Allah, the gathering, and the Prophet straight away came and made him sit at the front. And he's black. Like the Arabs, they got this Ansuriya, they got this discrimination. Going out of Lebanon, you'll see them all, they're Sri Lankiya, like they're not human beings or something. That's how, unfortunately, we still are. We got that discrimination against everyone who's not from our part. That's, xenophobia. We're very xenophobic. We talk about the Aussies, what we said. If it was reversed, we would have put them all in the concentration camps. Anyway, and some of the Sahaba, you could see the Prophet and he said, so that was Sayyidina Umar. I mixed the two stories. Anyway, it was Sayyidina Umar, he was the Khalifa, and Sayyidina Umar made him sit at the front. Then, the others who didn't know who he was, because he went to Syria and all this sort of thing, and then he came back and only a few times to Medina. And then they who's this bloke? Then he asked them to show. He asked Bilal Ramadan to show his back to all the people sitting in the gathering, and of course it's all mangled, and they freaked out. And then Sayyidina Umar told the story, and then they asked him, "How did you survive? How did you survive that?" He goes, "The agony and the pain, the physical pain, mixed with the sweetness of Iman, and the sweetness of Iman overcame the agony of the physical pain." And he said in the same thing, he goes, I think about those days fondly. He said, I think about those days fondly. Because why? He didn't feel it. And what was he saying? Ahadun ahad. They asked him, what did you say? Ahad. They said, why did you say ahadun ahad? He said, I didn't know anything else. If I knew other words that would have made him more angry, I would have said it. So if that type of Iman doesn't exist, worry about it. Just stop from now. That's my advice. Stop worrying from now. Go and drink and eat and I'm genius up, so don't go do it. But that's the result. That's the result. That's the result. Now have a look on the right wing things. They go, when they talked about the refugees coming from overseas, right? And they didn't want Muslim ones, they wanted Christian ones. People that I know were writing, like, oh yeah, they should have a test to see if they're Muslim. Firstly, see if they're circumcised. And then someone said, nah, that's too hard. Just get a bacon and egg breakfast. If they don't eat, look at the things people are saying. What, are you going to eat? That's the type of... So that's one comparison. Imam Haddad gave us the comparison of the money being handed out in the masjid. The converse of that is eating alcohol, eating pork or whatever, or drinking alcohol? Are we going to do it to survive? Are we, in a situation where it's life or death, there's dispensations for it. But in a situation where it's, oh look, you can have the best or this life, or you can have another life, then you can't do it if you're going to still live. So they're the type of things that have to go through our minds when we see this stuff, this crazy stuff that really isn't Australia, and it's not Australians. But obviously the place has changed. People's attitudes have changed towards Muslims in particular. And if our iman isn't strong enough, to sail through that storm, then our boat's going to sink and it's all over. It's all over. We've lost everything we've worked for all those years, holding ourselves, not doing haram, not drinking, not taking drugs, not going out, not having boyfriends and girlfriends and whatever. If you're a bloke, have a boyfriend. If you're a woman, having a girlfriend. Well, it's trendy now, everyone's doing it. Alright, so it's the modern world. So he says that two types of excuses. Either the person themselves has an excuse, or they're caring for someone else that needs them to be there. And then he goes on, he says, كالذي يكون عذر التمريض الضائع ونحوه. فصاحب هذا العذر والذي قبله إن قارن عذرهم الحزن والتحسر على ترك الحضور حصل لهم الثواب.
People with such excuses provide they feel sad and aggrieved at losing the prayer will receive the reward.
Okay, so that's what the Imam said right at the beginning. Whoever has a valid excuse, okay, for not attending the congregational prayer, and Jummah is the same, right? And there's other excuses as well, like safety. If there's a tsunami or whatever it is, or if there's wild animals. Now that's in the old days. Today, I don't know, the roads, might be cracking, or there might be floods. Sometimes when it rains heaps, the roads flood, it's unsafe to go out. Or thunderstorms, or hailstorms, or things like that. They're the type of things we come across in Australia. Nothing else really, is there? We don't have snow. We don't have cyclones and much anyway. I've never had one in this country. But say, for example, the wind was 120, and the authorities were saying everyone should keep indoors because it's dangerous to go outside. That's an excuse. Or if it's raining so much, and this is that a person's only got, it doesn't apply to us because mashallah we've got heaps of clothes, but one of the Sharia reasons is if there's mudslides, floods, if you've only got one set of clothes and if you go outside those clothes are going to get wet, which like I said doesn't apply to us, that's an excuse for not to go to the Jama'ah and the Jummah as well. So if someone has a valid excuse not to attend, then, and they're feeling that that's why the people who, one of the people who are shaded under the Arsh of Allah is the person whose heart is connected to the masjid. So the person whose heart is connected to that good deed, and in this sense, the congregational prayer, and they feel, what do you say, aggrieved and something else? Sad?
At losing the prayer.
There's two words used. One
sad
before
and aggrieved.
Sad.
Yeah.
Right? Huzn is depressed even. They're like, no, I wish I could go. I really wanted to go. But they're for real. They're true in their own feelings of remorse because they were unable to go. Then they'll get the reward because they're genuine. But someone's like, nah, I'm sitting here at Thai hut or whatever it is, eating Thai food, and I don't want to go. And this coffee's going to get cold. That's another excuse. Or whatever it might be, not to go. And they're like, they don't really care. It's a Hamun. Then when their uzr isn't going to be accepted. All right. So look, what I don't want is to leave depressed. Unfortunately, sometimes reality. Why does it make us? It takes the wind out of our sails, because it changes our perception. It changes our perception. And once our perceptions change, that means we have to change. That's why we feel depressed. That's why we feel like we're in loss. What does Allah say? لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. People have the true iman. The people have the true faith. لا خوف عليهم. No anxiety. So this is my own personal theory. Okay, anxiety, or like a lot of these mental illnesses, whatever they want to call them, a lot of them come from the fact that there's no iman. Because what does Allah Azza wa Jalla say about the people of iman? لا خوف عليهم. What's khawf? Fear, which is what? Anxiety. وَلَهُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Nor are they depressed. Al-huzn is depression. So the two major mental melees that people are having, psychological issues, are anxiety and depression. Anxiety at what? What are people anxious about? What do they fear?
Being alive.
Okay? All those things. The unknown. They fear the unknown. All those things you guys mentioned is the unknown. Alone, will I ever find a partner? Sorry, sisters, will anyone ever marry me? Those types of things. That fear. It's a fear of the unknown. That's why they fear us. That's why the people fear us. Because they don't know us. They only know ISIS and Al-Qaeda and September 11 and whatever else. They don't know us. So if we want to change, we've got to get out there. We've got to be involved in our unis, in our schools, and volunteering, whatever. We can't just live in Muslimville, Sydney, West, southwestern Mecca. It doesn't work. All right? You can't live in the city like that. You have to get out amongst the people. Play football and tennis or whatever it is that you do that you like doing. Do it with people who are not Muslim. The casual things. Go to places where people aren't Muslim. Talk to people who aren't Muslim. Even if you're at Bunnings or whatever. Just talk to someone. Say hello. How you going? Smile. Be polite. Right? Those types of things. So, لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. We don't have either of those two things. Anxiety and depression are not for the person. Now there are mental issues. People have brain issues, chemistry. I'm not saying everyone. I'm saying a lot of the epidemic. They say now, I don't know if it's true or not. I saw it on the internet, so can't trust. I think it's even on Facebook. You can't trust anything you see there. Okay, except if it's from one of the Mashiach, probably that's the only thing. They were saying that the amount of anxiety and stress that a American elementary school student, which is primary school, is the same as a 1950s psych patient. Like that's the amount of stress. And that only makes sense because we know so much more about the world. And when you know more about the world, if you don't have Iman, of course you're going to stress out. It's a big unknown. You're only this little human being that weighs whatever, 60, 70 kilos, whatever it is, 160 centimeters, with limited power, limited capacity, limited knowledge, limited resources, and the whole world's out there. It's scary. It's scary. But the Iman will prevent one from that fear. Because why doesn't a believer fear? Why? Because we know Allah. So there's no unknown for us. There's no unknown. Allah is the known, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the manifest, al-mutlaq, the absolute manifest. Allah's greatness is manifest in everything. Right? Everything around us, Allah is manifested in. So, why are we scared? وَلَهُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. We're not depressed. Because the depression comes from the not knowing. So the anxiety is from the unknown, and the depression comes from the not knowing. What's going to happen tomorrow? Am I going to be successful? Or an event occurs, broken leg. Why did my leg get broken? Why did I lose my money? Why? But what about us? Why don't we get depressed? إِنَّ الْقَدْرَ خَيْرَهُ وَشَرَّهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ. All the events and situations that occur with us, around us, to us, they're where from? Allah. عَجَبًا إِلَىٰ أَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ إِنَّ كُلَّهُ خَيْرٌ إن أصابه ضراء صبر وكان خيرا له وأن أصابه سراء شكر وكان خيرا له عجبا وما ذلك إلا للمؤمن. The believer, whenever event occurs to them, if it's bad, they be patient. Allah gives them rewards. They can't lose because that's what the point of life is, pleasing Allah. Yes? And if a good thing happens, they say Alhamdulillah, again pleasing Allah. It's only for the believer. It's only for the believer. So we don't. Anxiety and depression, fear of the unknown, death. Do we fear death? We fear meeting Allah and Allah asking us. Yeah, but we don't fear death. We remind ourselves of death because it takes away it gets rid of that connection to desires. But we don't fear dying. We know what's going to happen. How can you fear something that you know? How can you fear something that you understand? How can you fear something that you're 100% convinced is going to happen? If you do, then something wrong with you. Well, they'll be a little bit perturbed, like, all right, it's a bit weird, but you know it's going to happen. You know tomorrow you're going to have a surgery, you're going to cut your arm from there to there. Well, you know the doctors come, they explain it to you, It's a bit harder in Australia. In Lebanon, they don't do any bad things at all. They're just kind of like, yeah, no worries, be sweet, you know, which is a good thing. Because if a person goes into a positive, then their blood pressure is different. I'm not a doctor, but that's what the doctors say. The person, their response to but when a person goes in, they're perturbed, they're upset, there's always complications. So, but in Australia, they've got to tell you, because of us lawyers, everyone gets sued, duty of care, all these things. So they've got to tell you the risks, so you understand the risks. And ever seen a lever, like an old lever or whatever, go and have surgery? They always freak out. Why are they telling me this stuff? And it's true. What they're saying psychologically is true. Just tell them, inshallah, it'll all be good. No worries. Okay, so we don't fear. No one should fear the things they know is going to happen. They might fear the pain because no one wants to experience pain. But that's it. It's going to happen, you know. But when you don't know, even if it's just the wind changing, it's scary. So we don't have that problem. So when I'm saying that the reality doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happens in the end as long as we're with Allah. So our, latest 2000, let's say from 2000 onwards, the latest Muslim fad, and there's trends in Islam. There's trends. When I was younger, it was Sahih Hadith. Everything had to be Sahih. That was the trend, right? Now the trend is jihad. Everything Syria, Burma, Palestine, Iraq, Afghanistan, everything. Everywhere you go, everyone's, Allahumma, come on, man, what is on about? Why did you never make, how come for 25 years I never heard anyone make dua for Palestine, bro? Why? Only now, all of a sudden, because it's trendy, it's become trendy now. It's trendy, we want to go jihad, we want to, be heroes, and, we want to get rid of the oppressors, and Sharia is not even in our own homes, and we want to go fight for Sharia over there. What are you talking about? Take care of your own household. Take care of your own self. Take care of your relatives. Take care of your family. So the people that we're always, not to say we shouldn't be concerned, we should be. We're like a one body, the Muslims. And if we don't hurt, if the rest of it, if the toe gets stubbed, the head doesn't hurt, then laysa minna, not from the ummah. So yes, we're concerned, but it's not our only concern and our primary concern. And every time we raise $1, we send it up. What are you talking about? That's not how it is. That's not the reality of our Islam. So our Islam is manifest only in Burma. Our Islam is only complete when we go and kill ourselves in a country we don't even know where it is on the map most of the time. We're not bad at geography, but as a point, is that the only time? No, it's not the only time. So our iman, whether a person dies over there or whether they die over here, if they die on iman, they're successful. But if someone in these countries that we spoke about, right, they get oppressed and they die and they're on iman, where do they go? Jannah. But someone here, not oppressed, all right, not oppressed, living the happy life, living the dream, helicopters and planes and private planes and rings and cars and money and houses and the best food, and they don't pray, and they don't fast, or worse, they're on drugs, they're involved in zina and adultery, they're involved in whatever, liwat and homosexuality, they're involved in all the, which one's worse? Where should our primary concern be? Those people that are on their Islam and they're dying, or primary concern? Or my brother, my cousin, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my next door neighbor, all Muslims I'm talking about, that are off their heads. Which one?
Your neighbor and your cousin.
Exactly. Your area, your sphere of influence. That's your sphere of concern over there. We're concerned. That's a problem. And it needs to change. I can't really change it. Not here anyway. And if I go there, I really can't change it either. Who am I? Let's just think about the whole deal. I rock up there, right, to wherever it is, it's Syria, isn't it now? Who the hell am I? Like if these so-called people have half a brain, they'll straight away, who's this guy? Where's he from? Maybe he's an informer. Maybe he's a, what do they call him? Double agent. What or not? Isn't that not the reality? Yeah or no? Would you trust someone to come and hold a gun and fight next to you? You don't even know who they are. So the whole thing doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And our Imam should tell us these things. Our Imam should tell us that, yes, we're concerned, but it's more important for me, in my Imam, whether I die here or die anywhere, that I'm concerned with the people around me, that I can make a difference to the halal thing that's going on. That I can write a letter, that makes a difference. I can do a report. That makes a difference. Don't think it doesn't. They even said that the ink of the scholars is heavier in the scale than the blood of the shuhada, the blood of the martyrs. But we don't, because our iman, it's wavering. It's wavering. So our iman is going to save us, inshaAllah Azza wa Jalla. Allah will save us. But that's the sabab. That's the sabab al-nabawi, sabab al-rabbani. Right? That's the cause that Allah will use is the state of our iman. So just because the world is upside down, inside out, it shouldn't affect the people of iman. Actually, the people of iman, this increases their iman. Why do you think this increases their iman, even though everyone's against them? Why do you think? Those people, yeah, but what about us? Why do you think that seeing all these things and people going against the Muslims and the Muslim nations getting ripped up and bombed and perpetual wars for the last 15, 20 years and what? Do you see where I'm going?
It was predicted.
Right? It's prophesied. It's prophesied. The Prophet of Allah, he told us it's going to happen. So, in a way, you should be happy, in a way. Exactly right. It's a confirmation that whatever you know about Allah and whatever you know about the Prophet increases what? Your iman. That's why you got to see the things around you. That's why you got to see the things around you. So your iman can increase, good or bad. Good or bad. Doesn't matter. Did he say alayhi salatu wasalam? Of course he said it. Of course he mentioned it. Even in the Qur'an. When the journalists start writing, what? It's the media. When the animals are confined. They're not wild anymore. We're wild. And they're in captivity. Because there's just no more wild land. Right? So they're the types of things that, yeah, it's bad and we cry, but the believer, the iman increases. And it doesn't make them fear, have anxiety, or become depressed. No, it doesn't matter what the scenario is. It doesn't matter. What about what they said? It's in the Qur'an. They said, اخشوهم. People, قَدْ جَمَعَ عَلَيْكُمُ النَّاسِ فَاخْشَوْهُم. People have gathered against you. They're going to destroy you. And what did they say? وَمَا زَادَتْهُمْ إِلَّا إِيمَانًا. All it did, the only thing it did, knowing that thing happened, was it increased the iman, because they were told, was prophesied by the Prophet ﷺ, that's what's going to happen. And they're going to die. But what happened? The iman increased. Their faith increased. Their conviction increased. Their connection to Allah Azza wa Jalla became firmer. And that's why to see what's going on is important to us. To be able to deal with it and to know that, so what? Take me. They were telling the story the other day about, I don't know if you've ever heard of Imam Kishk. al-Hamid al-Kishk is from Egypt. When one of our mashaykh, he spent 2 years with him, and he was telling us that if you wanted to go to be in the masjid, but in Qahira, if you wanted to be in the masjid in Cairo, when the khutbah was on, when Jummah was on, you had to come after Fajr, you had to pray Fajr, and then stay in the masjid to make sure that you got to. They used to close all the streets in Cairo, and 1 million people would come, or 2 million people, I don't know how many it was. The whole streets were closed around, the police, everything. Every time he did a khutbah, that's how awesome he was. And the television, the television, he used to call it the mufsidun, the corrupter. He was ahead of his time. Anyway, what happened was he used to do a khutbah, he used to smash everyone, he used to come off the mimbar, and he used to put his hands like this, they used to put the handcuffs on him and take him straight to jail. And they used to beat him in jail, and they used to do all these things, but what saved him is iman. One time, they couldn't crack him, so they got these dogs, wild, crazy feral dogs, and they didn't feed him for a while. They sent the dogs in on him, they left him, they came back after a while. After a while, when the guard came in, the dog attacked the guard. And then when the guard retreated, opened the window, closed the door, he saw that the dogs were sitting, and the imam was sitting next to the dogs. And later, some of his students, one of the students, he asked him, he goes, what happened, imam, and why didn't the dogs rip you up? He says, because I read the verse, وَقَلْبُهُمْ بَاسِطٌ ذِرَاعَيْهِ بِالْوَصِيدِ, which is in Surah Al-Kahf, if you would have read it today, that they were sitting there, the dogs were sitting. He read that verse on the dogs, and they sat. So the people of Iman, it doesn't matter. The Iman increases when they see the effects of the Tawaghid, the people who are the oppressors and who are trying to, يَدْفَأُ نُورُ اللَّهِ, turn off the nur of Allah Azza wa Jal. And the more people, the tawaghit, the transgressors, transgress, and the less the Muslims have weapons and armies and governments and organization, the greater the unseen divine help, the nusra of Allah comes. That's what our iman is in Allah's divine help. Not in our, we should have weaponry and government and whatever else. We should. That's what we've been attacked with. We should defend ourselves. But if we don't, it doesn't matter for the believer. It doesn't matter. In the battle of Badr, I can't remember which one of the Sahabi only had a few arrows. He started with no more arrows, and then he said, Ya Rasulullah, I've got no arrows. The Prophet used to give him sticks. Took the sticks, they turned into arrows, and he shot them. What? Bahrain, even without the Prophet, when they went to Bahrain, which is an island, they had no way of getting there. The horses they reached, they had no way, they were going for sabilillah. They had no way of getting there. The Amir looks around and said, has anyone got any major sins? A couple of guys looked a bit funny. He said, all right, everyone pray tawbah, everyone make tawbah, and pray to the God. They walked across the water. That was after the time of the Prophet. It was tabi'in. Tabi'in, not tabi'in. That was the tabi'in. After that time. After. So, it's the more things are looking bad, the more our iman should be there, and the more the divine help of Allah Azza wa Jal comes. And if we don't have that conviction, if we don't have that belief, if we don't have that reality in our lives, then our time's going to come too. Me, you, and everyone else. Didn't he say, alayhi salatu wasalam, in this time, يصبح المؤمن يمسي المؤمن مؤمنا يصبح كافرا. The believer will sleep as a believer and wake up as a non-believer or a disbeliever, and vice versa. The disbeliever will awake as will sleep as a disbeliever and awake as a believer. So no one's guaranteed. That's the thing we should be worried about. That's the thing we should be concerned about. That's our commodity. That's our currency, is our iman. And through these things and through these actions and through these practices, that our iman, inshallah, will increase, and we'll be able to deal with whatever Allah Azza wa Jal, bismillah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, throws at us. Are there any questions? Any questions about any of that?
Yeah, regarding praying Jamaat, so we pray at work usually. A bunch of brothers come together. We have maybe from 6 up to 20 sometimes. Because the area where my work is, the nearest mosque is maybe a 20-minute drive away. So to go to the mosque, come back, takes about an hour and a half or something. So is that?
Yeah. Look, in the opposite Abu Hanifa, the Imam and 3 people, it's enough. So no worries about that. It's like we said, that's why even in the Shafi'iyya there has to be a masjid, has to be waqf, and it has to be in the middle of the balda, and all these rules that were around that don't apply for us. So even if you get caught somewhere and you've got 2-3 mates, go ahead, do the khutbah. But even, I can't remember, I think it's Dawood al-Zahiri, one of them, he says, as long as there's one of the other aqwal of the ulama, he says even if there's one person there, it's not from the main madahib, even if there's one person on the khatib, they can pray Jummah. Sorry, two people on the khatib, they can pray Jummah. That's what makes the jama'ah. So, if you get stuck, you get stuck. As long as you're not being lazy, and as long as you're not saying, it's only Jummah, I'll just pray blah, to hell on it, as he said there, like that. Treat it lightly. Any other questions about this or anything else? That you ask about anything else? No? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala khayril anbiya'i wal mursalin, ya arhamar rahimin, alhamdulillah rabbil alamin, wa sallallahu ala hayatil ba'd min ma tafaddalu aqdamna ala as-siratil mustaqim was-siratil mustaqim wal 'amal as-salih, ya arhamar rahimin, as'aluka an tuwaffiqna lima tuhibbu wa tarda wa tathabbitana alayhi. Allah, I ask to elevate the difficulties of the ummah of the Prophet of Allah. We ask to increase us, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, in that which you love. And we ask to keep us away from that which is detested by you. Ya Allah, we ask you to protect our family members. Ya Allah, we ask to protect our neighbours. Ya Allah, we ask to protect our brothers and sisters and our brothers and sisters in Islam. Ya Allah, we ask you to bring the disbelievers and the non-believers to the right and righteous path, and we ask you to make us a cause for that. Ya Allah, we ask you to make us of those people that are beloved to you. Ya Allah, we ask you to make us of those people that are mukhlasin, that are elect and chosen by you. Allah, we ask you to keep away the fitan and the difficulties and the trials and the tribulations that are all around us. And we ask you, Allah, to give us the strength of iman and give us the ability and the capacity to see the reality of that which is going on around us. Ya Allah, we ask you to forgive all the sins that we commit, the ones we commit knowingly and unknowingly. Ya Allah, we ask you to make our heart firm on La ilaha illallah. We ask you to make our minds clear in our understanding of the way of the Prophet of Allah. and give us the capacity, Ya Allah, to implement and emulate the Prophet of Allah in all our deeds. Ya Allah, we ask you to make us of those people that are dhakireen, those people who constantly remember you and that are never neglectful of you. Ya Allah, we ask you to make our hearts attached to you in all circumstances and situations, and we ask our minds, Ya Allah, to be able to differentiate between right and wrong by using the sunnah and the tradition of the Prophet of Allah. Ya Rahman Rahim, we ask you to bless this place and put barakah in the lives of the organisers and those who allowed us to use this place. Ya Allah, we ask you to elevate the status of our mashayikh بخير ولطف وعافية وإلى حضرة النبي بالسر الفاتحة. Locusts, whatever, something that makes it dangerous to go outside, or if it's raining and it's dangerous to go outside. So sometimes you get warnings from states, emergency services and police and weather bureaus and whatever it might be, that it's dangerous to go outside, everyone should stay in their homes. Or that could even be smog. You know, sometimes during the year when there's bushfires and things like that, people have asthma and they say, look, it's not good to go outside. Okay, that person, as long as they're not going outside for other reasons, then their excuse is valid. And the second or the third type of category is someone who's looking after somebody else. So someone's ill, they're psychologically ill, they're distressed by death, divorce, illness, not their own illness but someone else, they need that support, then that's a valid excuse not to go out. Okay? And also the fitna. So after Sayyidina Uthman, Allahumma anhu, after he got murdered and was assassinated, then some of the Sahaba who attended Badr, it's in the Sahih, it's in the Sahih narrations, they didn't go to Jum'ah or Jama'ah. It's too much fitna, they said. They were afraid of all the fitna, all the trials and tribulations, whose sides are going to be on, what's going to happen, who's going to get killed, who's going to get stabbed, and so they didn't go. So in that situation as well, it doesn't apply these days, but in that situation, Allahu Alam, what's going to come in the future, to protect the person's deen, then they're entitled not to go to the masjid, particularly for Jama'ah. Okay, so does that make sense? Yeah? Alright, so we'll continue. إنما نعت التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والدعاء إلى الهدى والضلالة على الخير والحث والتمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله اتباع مرضات الله وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيدا والصلاة والسلام على خير الأنام وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Praise Allah Azza wa Jal. I praise it's worthy to a beneficent bestower of bounties and favours, and we ask our Lord Most High to send copious and unlimited and eternal blessings and salutations upon our beloved Prophet Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam amma ba'd. So he says, ثم إن المؤمن الكامل لا يضع شيئا مما يقربه إلى الله وإن كان له في تركه ألف عذر حتى يعلم أن تركه أحب إلى الله من فعله. You read last time, right? Yeah. Yusuf. Oh no, you guys tell me. Which page are we on? 66.
Start?
Yeah.
Start?
I don't know where are we at?
Yeah, but the sentence.
Sentence is ثم إن also or verily that a believer who is complete or perfect. Thus the perfect believer.
First paragraph.
You got it? Anyone?
The fifth line, a perfect believer never.
What is it?
The fifth
perfect
line,
believer, yeah.
Fifth line down on the 66.
Perfect believer never abandons any act that would take him nearer to God, even though he may have a million excuses. He would only do so if he knew that not acting was more pleasing to God.
Okay, so this is the test for the believer. This is the test for the one who professes submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by saying La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. That when an event occurs, when an occasion, when something happens, an incident happens, that the test for the believer is the internal thought process they have. That's the initial test. Because like when we talk about if someone wants to get fit for athletics, what do they have to keep going? Motivation, right? They have to have motivation to keep going. To study, they have to have motivation to keep studying. To learn how to drive a car, they have to have motivation for learning how to drive a car. If someone wants to get engaged or married, they have to have motivation to find their partner or to go through the process of vetting someone for the purpose of marriage. So motivation is about a thought process. And the way that our minds think determine what our actions end up being. So that's why Imam al-Haddad, rahimahullah, nafa'ana bihi wa bikum radiyallahu anhu wa ankum, he's talking about this specific incident when it comes to excuses. So when an individual has an excuse, valid or otherwise, it's the thought process that a Muslim goes through in order to determine whether or not their thought process is acceptable or otherwise. So I wrote something down. Alright, so how does one know when the nafs plays up? Okay? So, in other words, when one's desires, nafs is one's ego, what one wants themselves in terms of laziness, in terms of the easy road, in terms of fulfilling or getting a favor for oneself or feeling for oneself that is not connected to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Okay? So it's about the inclinations, the internal thought processes, the internal patterns that happen inside one's mind in particular, and secondarily one's heart. Are you with me? Yes or no? Yep, so it's the whisperings, it's the things that go on, the thought processes we have inside our heads. Okay? So for example, if the whispering inside is not to go to the prayer, not to go to salat, not to help mum, not to help dad, not to help a younger person, not to dress in an appropriate manner, not to stop listening to music or not to go somewhere where there's alcohol or drugs or whatever's going on. Okay? Then when there's a differentiation between what's halal and what's haram, it's clear. Okay, it's clear. When the internal machinations of a person, the internal thoughts of a person are driving one to do haram, then it's clear, is it not? That's the nafs. That's the nafs or the shaitan saying, don't go there. Sorry, do that bad thing. Do that bad thing. So that's clear. That's a clear delineation, a clear differentiation between when it's the nafs and when it's something else. You can even imagine in the cartoons, the little devil comes on the left shoulder, and subhanAllah they do that. The devil's on the left shoulder and the angel's on the right shoulder. And they're talking to Tom or Jerry or whatever, and they're saying, do this, don't do that. What about this? What about that? And then there's a dialogue going on internally in the individual's life, and that happens to us all the time. That's a constant for us, especially when we have a decision to make. And one of the reasons that we become so indecisive in the times in which we live is because we don't know the right thing to do. We don't know it's harder for us to differentiate between right and wrong. So when the nafs rears or the shaitan whispers and the choices between halal and haram, then it's easier to take that. It's easier to take that choice. It's easier to take the choice. It's easier to say, look, what are the consequences? If I do that haram thing, if I do that thing that Allah Azza wa Jalla doesn't like, what's the consequences for me? What if I die like that? What if it's only one time? I'm just going out this one time to a nightclub, to a whatever, to a wherever. Once. But what happens if I die in that state? At that place? The person who dies, wherever they die, whatever condition they die in, they'll be resurrected in that state. They'll be resurrected in that condition. So tell you, the whole life the person's been doing the right thing, do they make that one mistake, and when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they end up getting resurrected with the people of the nightclubs with Allah. And we'll read a little bit more because that's what he talks about. He says, وَلِذَلِكَ تَحَمُّلَ الْكُمَّلِ مِنْ أَهْلِ اللَّهِ فِي فِعْلِ مَا يُقَرِّبُهُم إِلَى اللَّهِ أُمُورًا تَعْجِزُ عَنْ حَمْلِهَا الْجِبَالِ وَالرَّوَاسِيَ.
Thus the perfect ones among the people of God in doing what takes them nearer to Him, endure that which firmly set mountains would be unable to carry.
Okay, so then that's what he's giving us the example of the people, the kummal. These are the people that have reached the spiritual perfection in a sense. And nafsul mutma'inna. It's even a level above that. And nafsul kamil. So the nafsul mutma'inna is the nafs it's at ease, it's content, it's tranquil. It's not searching, running, trying to find whatever it's trying to do. No, it's at ease. And so you can see that people that are not content, they're not tranquil, they're always fidgeting. They can't relax. Their mind doesn't come to a point of ease. It's a sickness. It's a spiritual sickness when I believe. And they can't sit still. 5 minutes, let's go, let's do this, let's do that. Do something. Oh, that's not enough, boring, let's change. That's an illness when I believe. The person whose spiritual state is at the point of tranquility, they know what they need to choose, they choose it, and they handle it. And we spoke last time, a few chapters ago, Imam al-Haddad was talking about the characteristics of the believer. Not fidgeting, not cracking their necks, not stretching, not constantly changing their sitting position, not constantly fixing their clothes, scratching, all these different things that, remember that chapter or not? Yeah? So you can go back and read about that chapter. So that person's external state is just an expression of their internal state. So Imam al-Haddad is telling us that when an individual comes to the situation of choosing between two permissible things, to go to the masjid, for example, this is where the example starts from, in praying jama'ah, it's permissible. And to pray at home, depending on the circumstance, is permissible. Okay, if you hear the adhan from your home, then it's not permissible to pray at home. But if you don't, for example, these days we have to get in our cars and drive, whatever it is, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get to the place of prayer. So the Imam's even taken it down to an even finer level. The level of choosing between two acceptable things. And he's saying that the people of previous times, like Sayyidina Umar anhu, he said we left 70 doors of halal so we don't fall into one door of haram. So that means that let's say, for example, the issue of halal food. Let's say, for example, some of the ulama are like that these days. They're not sure where it came from, and that happened to Sayyidina Abu Bakr anhu. He had a servant. He always used to bring in food, and every time Sayyidina Abu Bakr anhu used to ask him, "Where's this from? Where's that from? Where's this from? Where's that from?" And then one day he didn't ask him, and the servant said to him, "How come you didn't ask?" Every day I said, "Oh, I'm really, really hungry today." And then he said, "Yeah, tell me where'd you get it from?" He said, "Back in the days before I was a Muslim, we used to do kahina. He used to look into crystal balls and all that. He used to do that, and then someone wanted him to look into their future. They read in the cups, like the women do when they get together. They look in the coffee cups and they say, whatever's going to happen, or they read the palms, or they do the tarot cards. That's all kahina, all that. What is it? Astrology. All that is all kahina. So this guy was involved in that, the servant of Sayyidina Abu Bakr anhu. And he said, I saw some people who back in the day I did some of that work for them. They didn't pay me, they paid me with the sheep. And I slaughtered the sheep. And Abu Bakr anhu, he realized this means it's not halal. Because it wasn't earned from a halal way. And he stuck his finger down his throat, and even though he was hungry, and he vomited up all the meat. Right? So the ulama talk about whether it was wajib to do that or not wajib to do that. Some say it was, others say it wasn't, but it's mustahab. But from the decision of Sayyidina Abu Bakr, and from the nearness he had to Allah Azza wa Jal, and the mukhalafa li nafsihi, that he was always going against his nafs, he purposefully did that. He purposefully he spewed up whatever he had eaten so that no haram went into his body. So the example of the halal is always an easy one, and halal meat and haram meat. So some scholars these days, they don't eat meat at all because they don't know where it comes from. In the old days, the butcher used to slaughter it. They only eat fish, for example, and dairy and whatever it might be, which probably is not a bad thing, to a certain extent. So that's an example of closing 70 doors of halal so they don't fall into one door of haram. In other words, 70 levels of 70 things that are permissible. So the example might be for us today that we want to go to eat at a restaurant, unless it's around this area, if it's in the city or somewhere, even if it's halal food or if it's seafood, they have alcohol there. So that's questionable. Would a person eat at a place where there's alcohol being served, etc.? So a person might stop going to restaurants like that, for example, so they don't fall into haram. Or we want to go to Wet and Wild, for example, is that what it's called? Yeah. Okay? But we don't know if there's a place to pray. We don't know if we can make wudu. We don't know, so we don't go to that place, even though it might be permissible to go there. So that's the example that the Imam's trying to give us. That's the example that the Imam's trying to give us, that we as believers, even though something may be permissible to do, right? Even though something may be permissible to do, it, in terms of whether we get the reward for doing it or not, and in terms of getting a spiritual elevation for doing it or not, it comes down to the internal conversation we have within ourselves. And the feeling we have about not doing it. So let's say, for example, the example of going to a restaurant where the alcohol is served as an example. Halal, it's seafood, for example. Okay, they only serve seafood, no pork, no nothing, no meat whatsoever. Okay? And we don't want to go there because we love the seafood, it's whatever seafood buffet, or you can eat cheap as well. We would love to go there. Or another example, it's a seafood buffet in a casino or something like that. We're not going to play the games of gambling, but going into the casino itself is questionable for a believer. So the question would be that go and eat halal food, all right. But what's the feeling about that? Okay, sometimes you might get stuck. Like sometimes, you've got to go to a dinner and there's alcohol there. You don't really want to go, but for example, for da'wah, you're going to call people to Allah Azza wa Jal, you go. But what's the feeling you have? Not that you're enjoying yourself. Oh yeah, everyone's drinking and I'm so happy I'm here amongst them. That person would be athim. That person would, even though they're there for da'wah, because they're farihin, they're very happy and overcome and joyous about being in a place where there's haram going on, even though it's okay for them to be there, they won't get the spiritual benefit. And the person who goes there and they act like they're having a good time, but really they're not, they hate being there, but they're going there for the sake of Allah, Allah Azza wa Jalla will elevate their spiritual position. And vice versa for the same sort of example for the person not going to the seafood restaurant because there's alcohol there, even if it's with friends or whatever it might be. And it's hard. It's very hard to stay away from these things because there's so many shubahat. There's so many things that are unclear. Is it halal? Is it haram? What's going to happen there? What are other people wearing? Is it mixing between men and women? All these different things that go on. For example, a wedding, your sister gets married, your cousin gets married, and you go and there's women and men dancing together and music, and it's problematic. Alright, so this is what the Imam's talking about. One's internal state, one's internal condition when they weigh up two options that are permissible. So in this specific example, he's saying that the person who has an excuse not to go into congregational prayer, but they're happy about it. Yeah, I got off. I'm off the hook. Then they don't get any reward for their intention. Okay? But the person who couldn't go for whatever reason and they feel nadama, they feel hasad, they feel really upset about it. I wish I had the capacity. I wish I could have gone to the masjid. I wish I could have done that. Then they get the full reward for their excuse. Okay? So we went a long way around to come into that last point. But it's kind of, especially for the sisters, it's not as relevant because going to the masjid isn't the same requirement for men. But I want you to think about it in other ways. I want you to think about it. You want to go somewhere to the city with your friends and there's nowhere to pray, or you don't know if there's anywhere to pray. Your excursions, your trips, your going out should be all in line with what Allah Azza wa Jalla says, and you should be able to eat halal and pray. If you can't do that, then why would you go on saying it's even permissible? Why would you do that? That's a question you have to ask yourself, and they're the principles that determine who you are as an individual and set up the way that you're going to live your life, inshaAllah. So he says, وَأَمَّا مَنْ ضَعَفَ إِيمَانَهُ وَقَلَّ يَقِينَهُ وَقَصَرَتْ مَعْرِفَتُهُ بِاللَّهِ فَلَا يَعُولَ في ترك ما افترضه الله عليه إلا على سقوط الحرج ولكل درجات مما عملوا وليوفيهم أعمالهم وهم لا يظلمون.
As for those whose faith and certainty are weak and whose knowledge of God is inadequate, they are, when faced with having to miss an obligatory act, concerned only with avoiding reproach, for each of them will be degrees from what they do, that he may pay them for their deeds, and they will not be wronged.
Alright, so this is what Imam al-Haddad, he ties up the situation. He said, what is a person concerned about when they can use a valid excuse? Is it they're only concerned about not being punished from Allah? Is that the only reason why we're praying, as an example? Time's finishing, Maghrib's going to be Isha soon. Just pray so we don't cop it from Allah. So that's not a good state for a believer to be in. It's not a good state because it's the lowest level. It's Islam. And the lowest level, no one shoots for the lowest level. Look in the rest of your life. What's the lowest level of clothes? Best and less, for example? Is it worse than that? No. What is it? Coles. Coles have clothes? Alright? So Coles clothes. No one ever goes out shopping for clothes. Has anyone in this room ever gone shopping for Coles clothes? Never. And say if someone, your mum, bought you Coles clothes, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Sorry, we walk around the clock.
Alright? As an example, someone gets it for you, that's one thing. But if you're asking for a particular thing for your mum, particular type of clothing, and she went to Coles and got it, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? You're going to accept it? You're going to whinge and cry and complain. What about this? What are my friends going to say about me? What's blah blah blah? This and that and the other. So it's not going to be acceptable. No one's going to accept that. So why would we accept our deen to be on that level? When clothes that last for a year or two or maybe 3, we wouldn't accept it being on that lowest level. Why would we accept that our deen, our way of worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal, and our connection to Allah Azza wa Jal being on that lowest level? No one would accept it. No one would accept it. Or if someone said to you, come over to eat at my joint, fair enough, you went over to eat and the food they got was out of the rubbish bin, for example. You wouldn't accept it. Even just talking about it, it's like, ew, gross. Makes you feel disgusting. No one would accept that. No, it's not acceptable. Okay? So, if it's not acceptable in the affairs that are temporary, what about the affairs that are eternal? What about the affairs of connection to Allah Azza wa Jal? That whatever deed you do, whatever action you have, whatever connection to Allah Azza wa Jal will last forever and ever and ever and ever. So that's what Imam Haddad's talking about. He's saying that if a person's only worried about not being punished from Allah Azza wa Jal, then unfortunately their status with Allah is not very high. And that's not a goal. That's not a goal. That's a fallback position. That's not an aspiration for one to achieve or one to yearn towards or one to work towards. That's just, whatever. That's it. I'm not going to get punished, full stop. But he won't, and as the verse says, Allah Azza wa Jal places people according to their level, and a person will have a low level if they were to go on that. It says, وَعَلَيْكَ بِحَمْلِ كُلِّ مَنْ لَكَ عَلَيْهِ وَلَايَةٌ من ولد وزوجة ومملوك على فعل الصلوات المكتوبة.
You should charge all those for whom you are responsible, whether child, wife or slave, with performing obligatory prayers.
Okay, that makes its own sense. That if you're in charge of someone else, if you have responsibility or authority over someone else, whether that's your younger brother or sister, whether that's whoever that might be, if you're a manager or a boss at work and you've got people who are Muslims who work under your authority, that falls into that category as well. If you're on a trip and you're people you're at your home or they're in your car or whatever the case might be, then it's your responsibility. Okay? It's your responsibility. If you invite people to your home and people are in your home, it's your responsibility to make sure they perform the obligatory prayers. فإن امتنع أحد من هؤلاء من فعله فعليك بوعظه وتخويفه.
When any of them refuses to do so, you should admonish and put fear into him.
Okay, so when it comes to this aspect of it, because this is Imam Haddad in the time he was talking about is a little bit different to our times. So before we get to that step, then it should be a positive encouragement. Oh, the one who prays is a contract between this person and Allah will give the person this much and this and that. Right? So it's a positive reinforcement. That's the first thing. Before this step, we should be encouraging people positively to get involved in their prayers or whatever it might be, to cover up, to not look at people of the opposite gender, whatever it might be. So the better option for us is positive encouragement, because we live in a society where words like discipline and sacrifice and effort are dirty words. What? Sacrifice, hard work, what for? What should I do? Just go to an app, I'll just download it. Pop a pill and I'll be fine. What for? Why should I work hard for? That's not an ethic that's respected. And when Alhamdulillah, unfortunately in your generation, from my experience with staff members from your generation, they're even worse. They say, I'm going to come on Wednesday, 9 o'clock, 8:59, they're sending a message, I can't make it. Why 8:59 you're sending? When did you find out you couldn't make it? And then that's it. Unfortunately, my generation, they say the same thing about us. People older than us say, you guys are irresponsible compared to us. So it's a normal thing, it's a generational thing, but I think it's getting worse. And look, the studies are out there saying that the biggest issue with people of your generation and younger is they've got no resolve. When things get hard, they give up. Because life's easy. Life's easy. But like my dad's generation, he started working in the gardens and the farms when he was 6, when he was 7, because there's no choice. But the more choices you have, the easier it is to become lazy or apathetic or lackadaisical. And that's not the quality of the believer. The believer, it has sabr. And sabr means to persevere patiently. To persevere. And that's a very, very awesome quality of the believer. Okay? So the first instance is to encourage people. Encourage people to do good. If that doesn't work, then the next week, بِوَعْظِهِ وَتَخْوِيفِهِ. So, an admonition. What are you doing? It's wrong. You're a Muslim. This, that, this. And there'll be some hadith about that a bit later. Okay? What if you die in this state? What if you die as a person doesn't pray, etc., etc.? But you've got to have a particular, it's not anyone you meet you can talk to like that. You have to have a relationship with an individual. If you talk to people in this day and age like that, they'll run away from the deen. So you've got to be careful about that. But what does he say? He says that child, wife, and slave in the first instance. So there's a relationship of authority in those relationships. Then he says, وَإِن تَمَرَّدَ أَوْ أَصَرَّ عَلَى التَّرْكِ فَعَلَيْكَ بِضَرْبِهِ وَتَعْنِيفِهِ.
If he rebels and persists in refusing, you may reprimand him physically. What's that word?
Ta'nif?
Physically
Chastise
him.
That's it. Alright? So then the next stage is, and this for people that you're around all the time, not people that you're visiting with, not people that are in your car, as we said previously, but people who, for example, your workers. Your workers, you're entitled to give them, you're the boss, and so you can make the rules. If they're Muslims, what do you mean you're not praying? Unless they've got a valid excuse not to pray. That's pretty much only for sisters, doesn't really apply to the brothers. Then what's going on? And the Imam will talk about it a little bit more. So he says that, darbihi, now that's a different time as well. You can't hit people these days, it's assault, you'll go to jail. So you can't do that. But ta'nifihi is, what does he say? Chastisement is almost threatening way. That's going to happen to you. You're going to cop it when you face Allah. Even that, you need to be careful of. They'll probably lock you away Supermax Goldman if you get into those things. وَإِنِ امْتَنَعَ وَلَمْ يَنْزَجِرْ عَنِ التَّرْكِ فَعَلَيْكَ بِمُقَاطَعَتِهِ وَمُدَابَرَتِهِ فَإِنَّ تَارِكَ الصَّلَاةِ شَيْطَانٌ بعيد عن رحمة الله.
If he is then not rebuked and continues to refuse, then turn away and cease to have anything to do with him. For the one who abandons the prayer is a devil, remote from God's mercy.
Alright? So even this one in our day and age, you've got to be careful. If it's your brother or your sister or someone who's not around people of the deen, and you're the only contact that individual has with the people of deen, then there's not going to be much effect if you cut that person off. Unless you've got a very strong personal relationship and they're going to be affected by you cutting off that person. So you're not cutting off that person because you hate them or you're upset with them or they've done something to upset you. But you're doing it for that person to wake up to themselves and return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alright, it's very important. That has to be the intention. You can't have any malice in your heart towards them. You can't think of them as lower than you. You can't think of yourself as better than them. The point of doing it is so they return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that could be specific in the case of husbands and wives, or parents and children. That when a person, when a father or a mother turns away from a child, the child because they see their own lives in their parents, the child will turn around likely to do so. But you have to think about it. It's not something you do on the spur of the moment when you're angry, when you're upset. It comes with stages. It comes by stages and you've thought about it and that's it. You said this is the only way this person's going to wake up to themselves and return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then what does he say? فَإِنَّ تَارِكَ الصَّلَاةِ شَيْطَانٌ بَعِيدٌ عَنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ. They're a shaitan. Why? What did the shaitan do to become the shaitan? Right? He didn't listen to Allah. He refused the order of Allah. What about the Muslim who doesn't pray? They're refusing the order of Allah? Of course. So that's why Imam al-Haddad calls them a shaitan. متعرض لغضبه ولعنته.
Remote from God's mercy, exposed to his wrath and curses.
So, the wrath of Allah can easily fall upon this individual as it did with shaitan. And the la'na, the curse of Allah, وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ, could easily fall upon that individual. And this is what he says. He says, وَتَحْرِمُ مُوَالَاتُهُ وَتَجِبْ مُعَادَاتَهُ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ وكيف لا وقد قال عليه الصلاة والسلام ورسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم العهد الذي بيننا وبينهم الصلاة فمن تركها فقد أشرك.
And all Muslims are prohibited from befriending him and are obliged to oppose him.
Yeah,
this must be so, for the Messenger of God, may blessings and peace be upon him, has said, the bond that is between us and them is broken, abandoning the prayer, thus whoever abandons it has committed adultery. And the one who does not pray has no religion.
Okay, so this is a kind of more of a communal thing. When communities are a bit smaller, that's the type of thing that used to happen. There were three of the Sahaba that didn't go out in the path of Allah with the Prophet of Allah ﷺ in one of the campaigns. So when the Prophet came back ﷺ, he was given an order by Allah that he wasn't supposed to speak to them. He wasn't allowed